that we're being faced with that are different from the normal business. So we do have a Q&A up. If you guys do have questions for any of the panelists, feel free to put those questions in there, and we will be addressing the questions throughout the forum. We're going to start with John Seabury. What do you got for us?
Well, Madam President, I would be very happy to follow my president if I'd hate to steal any of his thunder.
You can go first and tell us one of the things that I would talk about right just first off is the coronavirus resource page. I've been calling it the Corona page. So if you want to go ahead and talk about that, because so many of the questions may be answered by that page. In fact, that's the main thing about it, is that it answers a lot of questions. If you have members or you have agents that are that have questions about what's going on, so many of them get answered strictly by linking to this page. So John,
very good.
Take it away.
Well, thank you. And so what you see on your screen, and if you're not seeing it, you probably have you can toggle to a different view, but on the screen, I'm sharing the Missouri Realtors homepage. And there are two things that I'll refer to here. First, the Coronavirus Guide for Realtors, which is the red banner across the top. And then Jeff can talk a little bit more about our April Business Conference, which Sandy mentioned would be virtual. And that's the banner right under that. So in the Coronavirus Resources page, we have really done our best to try to create sort of a one-stop shop here for realtors throughout Missouri. We know if you're like, I think we're all sort of inundated at the moment with coronavirus resources. Every vendor we've ever worked with in our lives thinks we need to hear from them right now. So, you know, yesterday I heard from Enterprise Rental Car and American Airlines, and the list goes on and on. But we thought, if you're being overwhelmed, we'd love to create one place where you could get basically everything. So even at this website, we link to the St. Charles website, but Sandy mentioned essential services. And the one thing that I would point out here, because this was the first thing we worked on with respect to coronavirus, is that we're very happy that the U.S. Department of Homeland Security considers residential and commercial real estate as an essential service. And that was really the goal that we had in working with the governor on a statewide order. Many local jurisdictions, including many in your area, came out with their own stay-at-home orders prior to the state. And our biggest worry was that the state of Missouri would do something that could potentially undo something you had worked hard on at the local level. So our goal was to make sure the governor in his Stay Home Missouri order recognized the Department of Homeland Security's CISA recommendation that residential and commercial real estate, including settlement services, were considered essential. So that is the state of play here in Missouri. We also, the second bullet there is guidance for realtors specifically related to the Stay Home Missouri order. If you have a little extra time, I would encourage you to click on that, and it answers a number of questions we get. But the main thing to talk about here is that we continue to see mostly residential agents around the state of Missouri, actually around the country. We're all friends with people all over the country, and on Facebook, we see posts where realtors sometimes are pretending that it's business as usual. And I think you want your clients to know that you're available to them. But what's been given to us through this executive order could easily be taken away if it's deemed that we're taking advantage of it and not following the statewide mandatory no more than 10 people in one place. You must be 6 feet apart. And so you can continue to do real estate as an essential service, but you also have to follow minimum guidelines. So no hugging your client in front of a house while wearing a mask, because, you know, great, you're wearing a mask, but you're not following the distance order. And so just be conscious of that, because a couple of people could mess this up for everyone. And I know that sounds preachy, but most of us are staying home full time and finding new ways to do our jobs. And there are recommendations here also on virtual showings and that kind of thing. And I know Tim can talk more about that. The Missouri Real Estate Commission acted very quickly. They had an April 1st meeting scheduled, but we convinced them to meet earlier virtually, and they were able to open up to us options for in-seat live classrooms that can now be offered virtually. This was very restrictive in the state of Missouri, so we have a temporary allowance that's allowing more of that through June 30th. As a local association, much of your revenue comes from education. At least that's the case for many of our local boards around the state, and we wanted to make sure this was available. Also here for you brokers, the expiration deadlines for your renewals have been extended from June 30th to August 31st, and you'll see in that same sentence, salesperson expiration for renewals has been extended from September 30th to October 31st. And if you have issues, we're happy to work with MREC on your behalf, but we also have here, especially for you brokers, the email addresses for specific staff at MREC, because you're probably hearing government buildings are closed, they're not there, they may not be getting mail as often, but specific email addresses are here if you have issues with licensure, complaints, education issues. We've provided that for you. They may not appreciate that we've provided that for you, but it's there for you to email if you have issues. Next, forms. Our forms committee was very, very busy the first couple of weeks after coronavirus hit, and so they've created 4 new forms, and one of them is a flyer. These are good for residential and commercial agents. You don't even need to log in to get to these forms as you would typically with most forms. These are just available for any of our members to grab from the coronavirus resource page. If you are showing, or if you have a listing, I would encourage you to put this showing flyer on the front door that asks 4 very simple questions to anyone coming to visit that property. Do you have a fever? Have you traveled outside the United States? But these are there for you and should help you with any legal or liability issues in the future. Jeff, I would, you're such, remote online notarization was your #1 priority this year. And, I always have my, for those of you that were in Jefferson City last year, our top talking point was remote online notarization. So we were arguing for that long before the current situation, but now we see it's more important than ever. And Jeff, you've met with the Secretary of State?
Yeah, we were for remote online notarization before it was cool. So yes, we went through a variety of discussions in the General Assembly and directly with the Secretary of State. When the General Assembly decided that it wouldn't be meeting anymore, except for appropriations, we were at that time lobbying hard for legislation that came to a halt, but at least on a temporary basis due to an executive order from the governor. We have it now in Missouri. The Secretary of State a couple of days later came out with the guidance of 3 vendors. It may be 4 now, but fortunately there is a link at the bottom of that paragraph that you can always check back and see if additional vendors have been approved for use in Missouri. But at least for the time being, the order says May 15th, although we would anticipate that being extended. Remote online notarization, we do have it in Missouri. So I have, let's just say I've checked it off my list, but I've done so in light pencil. Because our next step, of course, would be to make that permanent. They're also working on that at the federal level, and that would be temporary. But now that we have it in Missouri, thanks to a huge team effort by Missouri Realtors, that can be used. We even talked this morning. Brenda Oliver, our immediate past president, is a notary public in Odessa outside of Kansas City, and she did the paperwork and is now, I think the word is certified as an electronic notary. And so she can now use these vendors to notarize documents. So again, one of those circumstances that realtor advocacy has definitely paid off in what we've done leading up to this.
Great, thanks, Jeff. By the way, on the federal act, the Secure Notarization Act, Jeff referenced that. The timing that we understand right now is that Congress, they're going to do their best to not have to come back in person as they did last time. You know, they all flew in for the day to pass the CARES Act on a Friday afternoon. They're hoping that they can come to agreement and do the next round via unanimous consent. And so the thing NAR has been working on is to get this Secure Notarization Act folded into that unanimous consent request. That's where we then, I'm going to skip over to the final two things I'll talk about, and then we can talk more about the April Business Conference. But unemployment benefits for the self-employed and the SBA loans are the two things I hear the most about. They're the two things I probably talk to Mark the most about these days. And unemployment benefits have been, I would say, frustrating. That's just a nice word for it. But for those of you who are independent contractors or your agents are independent contractors and they're frustrated by the system, they've never been eligible for unemployment benefits before. States have never dealt with independent contractors in this respect before. So you've got 50 departments of labor around the country that have, or a version of the Department of Labor. In some states, it's the Workforce Development Office or whoever that implements and runs the unemployment benefits program. They've had a set unemployment program that they've worked with. Congress expanded resources to that, but also created a brand new program called the PUA, which is just for independent contractors and others, but the independent contractors can apply for that one. So I think there's been a ton of miscommunication because our members will call me and say, I just read a press release that says independent contractors aren't eligible for this unemployment assistance. Well, you're not eligible for that one, but you're eligible, or that one, but you're eligible for this one. So you need to make sure the agents in your office that have been looking at this are looking specifically at PUA. And so there are two other acronyms that are part of unemployment benefits in the CARES Act, and they don't relate to us. It's the PUA. And just yesterday, the Missouri Department of Labor opened their system to allowing independent contractors to apply. So if they've applied previous to this, they've been denied. According to the Department of Labor website, someone should contact them starting next week to say, you were denied, let's now talk about this. To me, that sounds very labor intensive, but that's the way it's worked so far. They say that they'll begin processing these benefits for those who are independent contractors beginning next Monday, and it could take a while to process them. But the good news is the benefits will be retroactive to March 29th. We update this section of our website every single day with anything new that's coming from the Department of Labor. So I would encourage anyone who hasn't applied before to first click on the 3 easy steps for filing unemployment. That's a one-pager. You actually have to sign up for a separate website to do that, and it walks you through that. And then watch the video, Basics for Applying, and then apply at the Missouri Department of Labor website. NAR has also provided a really great unemployment benefits FAQ, which you see right here in the middle of the page. Finally, the Paycheck Protection Program, SBA loans. There are basically 5 different loan programs under the CARES Act that our members, some have access to. The Paycheck Protection Program is the one everyone's heard the most about. It's the one that requires you to work directly with an SBA approved lender. We have the link to that in this section. As of today, that program is out of money. The federal government has announced that. The president has called on Congress to approve more. Most members of Congress are saying we want more. NAR has contacted Congress to say we want more. The SBA, the U.S. Treasury Department, put out a press release last night saying we want more. I think there's a general feeling that there will be many more billions appropriated for SBA programs, but specifically this Paycheck Protection Program is out of money, and it probably won't let anyone apply if they haven't already applied. The one that I think is more interesting for our members is the EIDL program, and it's listed here. I just added yesterday or the night before this click to see a comparison of the programs. It shows you the difference between the PPP and the EIDL loan. The EIDL loan is up to $2 million, payable over 30 years, but the Paycheck Protection Program is different. It's up to $10 million. Again, that's the one that's totally out of money. The EIDL on the SBA website allows you to apply for an emergency grant loan. It's called the EIDL loan for up to $10,000. But the truth is it's a grant that will be forgiven. The rules keep changing. Last Friday night, the SBA put out a notice after closing time, after everyone was in bed. Hopefully they wouldn't read it, right? That's, I think, what government agencies do sometimes, changing the program to say that it's no longer sort of this 10,000 no questions asked towards the larger loan. It's now limited to $1,000 per employee that you had pre-COVID-19. Well, our members don't oftentimes have employees. You as brokers do, but our independent contractors don't. So this one's been very confusing. NAR sent a letter to Congress specifically saying that that $1,000 per employee was not the intent of the CARES Act. They want that to be, they want them to look at this again. Obviously, this is a money issue at this point. They just found that it was overwhelming, the number of people that applied. If you have specific questions about who's eligible for what, NAR's SBA resources are really good, and I would encourage you to look at that. And speaking of that, the last thing I'll say, and then I'll stop talking. If you go to nar.realtor, under real estate topics on the left here, coronavirus is the very first one. Click on that, and it will take you to more resources. And we link to this, but if you want to go there directly, that's where there are a ton of coronavirus resources, much more specific on a lot of these programs. So, Sandy, I don't want to take over, but I know there are a couple of questions. I saw Will had a question about ABC. Did you want Jeff and I to talk about that real quick? So back to our main page, and Jeff, if you want to unmute and talk about any of this, if you click on advocate, the April Business Conference is about advocacy. That's what it's always been about. The main thing to look at here is the schedule. And if you click on schedule, it'll look different. To the left here, looks like any schedule you've ever seen for the April Business Conference, but all the red boxes you see are individual Zoom addresses for that particular output group meeting. If it doesn't have one, for example, Tuesday at 9 a.m. is a 1031 exchange course. It doesn't have the box because registration is required, but you can go in and register. But we're trying to make this as close to the real experience as possible. Even sunrise yoga on Wednesday morning at 8. You know, click on that link and do yoga from the comfort of your living room and
Absolutely.
join friends. Yeah, Jeff will be there.
I'm most excited about that. Oh, yes.
I'm forgetting what Will's question was.
his question was about there is no fees for the conference, and I guess
Exactly.
there's no lunch.
Registration.
Yeah, there's no lunch and there's no registrations.
Yep, no registration fees. You know, I'm going to speak for Jeff for a second, only because Jeff is Mr. Advocacy, and the thought of not being in person for this particular business conference, I know kept him up many nights. But I think as we've continued to do the planning on this, it has become incredibly exciting because many of you are involved. You come to these meetings and you know the importance, but now pushing these links out to 23,000 members and having someone who may not have come to one location, one hotel for one output group meeting, maybe they are going to say, you know what, I am interested in risk management, or I am interested in property management or whatever. And they're going to join an output group meeting and be part of something that they haven't been part of before. So I think there's a lot of potential here. It's pretty interesting to be part of all this now and planning it, but I think it's going to be incredible. There will still be an opening session, just as there always would be. There will be a very exciting emerging issues forum. Jeff, why don't you talk about the fact that we're not together and we can't see each other and network in the halls, how we're handling that part?
Well, yeah, and let's just call it what it is, John. When he was talking about of all years to not have a Capitol conference, essentially what he's not telling you is the extent to which he had to talk me off the ledge, because that was a very difficult time for Missouri Realtors leadership. But like John, the fact that we are meeting virtually and we have the opportunity to engage all of our membership, inviting them to these meetings virtually, it has turned out to be pretty incredible. One of the things that I know I enjoy the most, and what makes a Missouri Realtors Business Conference recognizable as a Missouri Realtors Business Conference, is the camaraderie and fun that we have between meetings or after meetings, and seeing each other in the hallway and laughing and joking and those types of things. So we're very happy that we're going to be able to have a virtual hallway even. It won't necessarily be the same, but yet while we're all safely within the confines of our homes, we still will have the opportunity to see one another and laugh and joke and everything, but shake hands and hug, and we'll just postpone that till September at this point, where I'm sure there'll be lots of hugs. I know Sandy Grassbuck, when we were at the leadership meeting in Chicago in August, neither one of us, there's no way we could have anticipated what our presidential year was actually going to be. But I want to take that opportunity too to say that, when we started this year, our three core values going into it, our strategic plan values: advocate, lead, and engage. Once this whole situation got started, I was very afraid that those values would start to crumble, or that there was no way that we could meet strategic objectives while all this is going on. And I can say with all confidence and honesty that those three core values are playing out, I believe, to a greater extent now than they could have under normal circumstances. In January, for the January Business Conference, the theme was engage. And the need for engagement, the need for information and communication and transparency has never been greater, nor did that theme stop in January. John and I don't know how many local meetings with local presidents and brokers and members in general that we've been on combined. But it has been incredible, and I continue to urge you as to engage with those agents. I encourage those agents to engage with consumers because, again, while we can't necessarily shake hands or hug, the engagement, the information, the communication rolls on into what John was talking about earlier. That page, you know, I would urge everyone to start there when they need information. That it has to be the most comprehensive and incredible list of links and info in the country at this point. And I will say, not to knock NAR, but John and Kara and the MR staff, Missouri Realtor staff, have made that our page much more, I think, navigable than a lot of the other resources. And I've seen posts in Facebook groups and in various places online with a question or a comment, to which just linking to that page is as complicated a response as one needs to make. As John mentioned, this would be Capitol Conference. Advocate is our theme still. And I'll be very frank here. If there was ever a doubt by any Missouri realtor or a realtor anywhere as to the value of Realtor Association dues, I believe with all my heart that question or issue has been addressed this year through all of the advocacy efforts that the associations on all levels have made. Local associations on the essential issue, that issue as well on the state. We had online notary. Yesterday we were at a meeting and I said, you know what, it's April 15th, it's tax day. Oh wait, it's not. Thanks in large part to the advocacy efforts of realtor associations and what NAR is doing in Washington, D.C. The Residential Forums Committee and Risk Management Committee spent countless hours on those coronavirus forums, as I know you all have in your region. It has really turned out to be an incredible year. We've got to stay the course and we've got to stay safe. We cannot let our guard down. Even today, where we're starting to really get good news, and maybe there's, we can see a light at the end of the tunnel, and both all levels of government are starting to talk about rolling things back into a start. We as realtors need to continue to use every safety guideline we can, because it's not just about us and our business. Being a realtor is a higher calling, and we have to continue to be that leadership force and guiding force for the real estate marketplace and consumers in general. So hopefully you'll join me in that. We now have a weekly broker email going out, because you weren't seeing this handsome face enough. So if you are a designated broker and you're not getting that email, please let me know. But we are doing our best to engage with brokers on specific Missouri Realtor and National Association of Realtor resources and programs that speak directly to what we brokers do. So hopefully that information is helpful to you, and we'll continue that for a long, long time. So that's my 2 cents.
Jeff, since we have a question about it, I wanted to just mention on the schedule page, which we will send a link to. We haven't pushed this out yet, so I'm just sort of giving you the heads up here. But the agendas are due tomorrow. So each of us who are a staff liaison for a committee or output group are supposed to have our agenda posted by tomorrow. So a bunch are coming in today, but we should all have that by tomorrow. There will also be a link on this page to the RPAC auction, which will be online, and Jeff will launch that during the opening session, and it will run through Friday morning, I believe. So just keep checking back to this, but we'll be sending direct links to this, and there'll even be a text that goes out to everyone next week that links to this page, because this will be the key that day for you to go from meeting to meeting, just keeping that page handy.
John, do you want to answer the other questions there about if we've heard anything about Missouri reopening, as well as thoughts, and Tim might have something on this too, about mobile inspections being a requirement, environmental type stuff?
On the date, currently the Stay Home Missouri order expires next Friday, which is the 24th. The governor hinted at his press conference yesterday. If you watch those, they're on Facebook every day at 3 p.m. I think 4,000 or so Missourians are watching at a time, and he gets that question every day. But yesterday, he hinted that he would make some announcement today. So at 3 o'clock, I have to think, based on, since the federal government has always been May 1, at a minimum, I think the governor will say beyond April 24th, at least an extra week. But at this point, I think it's going to be a little bit longer. That's just a personal gut feeling. This governor didn't want a stay-at-home order to begin with. I think most people know he was one of the last, which he got a lot of heat for, but he feels like it's the small businesses that keep the state going. And, we made the argument to him, which I would encourage some of you all to use locally, that there are 12,500 pending home sales in the state of Missouri that total $3.5 billion. That's just $3.5 billion of real estate, not the ripple effect those $3.5 billion have on the economy as a whole. And if those had been shut down, it would have made a bad situation worse. You can use your own local numbers for pending, but at least essential things can continue to happen, and real estate is one of those. But I would say stay tuned, and hopefully we'll have more information today at 3 o'clock.
All right. Andy,
Okay. Do we want to go to Tim Dane? Are we ready for Tim?
yes.
There he is.
Hey, so I think before I get started, I actually have a question for John and Jeff, which is an oddity. I don't usually start my presentation with a question to the other presenters, but what happens with the currently licensed realtors that file for unemployment? Do they keep practicing? I mean, Maris will obviously do nothing without association guidance, but I wonder what happens if they go on unemployment. How does that impact their ability to practice real estate?
Yeah, we on the Secretary of State's website, and I've actually put this exact language on, if I can find it right now, because I was just looking at it a little bit ago. On the Department of Labor's website, it's highlighted here. You don't have to give up your job. It doesn't have to be totally, there's a pretty significant Q&A right there, but there are some states who have hinted that you'd have to actually put your license on ice, basically, and say that you can't work. Missouri's not doing that. Missouri is saying, keep your license, continue to work. The understanding here is that your work is curtailed and you're not doing as much business as before.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for that explanation. I've been asked that a few times and didn't know how to answer. You're welcome. Yeah, good job, Jeff. So I've done this. I actually just counted while these guys were talking. I've done this 32 times in the last 3 weeks. So I'm becoming an old pro at this, but I'm going to change it up just a little bit in case a lot of you have been on one of those other 32 calls. So Maris, like everybody else, has their COVID page. It's linked to you from the home page, but I'm going to dive down into it a little bit to show you guys something that I look at almost every day. This under partner products, there's a showing time impact on Maris. So if you guys haven't looked at this, this is the actual impact on just the Maris marketplace. We started January of this year, and we track it all the way through. The last date should have been yesterday, so tomorrow it will be today. What's really interesting, though, is if you see right here about March 7th or 8th was when the two lines started to diverge. So the blue line is last year, the yellow line is this year. And you can see that as the COVID started to take hold and the stay-at-home started to take hold, we dove down pretty far with the difference coming in around 70% showings as compared to last year. The nice thing is that something happened April 12th that started these to start to track back up. I believe that's a reflection on how long it took a lot of brokerages and agents to start to shift over to virtual showings and for showing time to add that status. So I think that probably a lot of those showings were happening anyway, they just weren't getting scheduled through showing time. And if you're interested in how that compares just to the state of Missouri, so here's Missouri State as well, and it walks through, and it's about March 7th or 8th that they started to diverge there as well. They took a much bigger dive across the state, but honestly, their dive didn't go as deep, right? So we ended up seeing around minus 26% as our low. They're around minus 9 or 10%. But Missouri's coming back up to the point where the showings scheduled right now are basically equivalent to the showings that were scheduled at the start of this year. So that's one market health indicator that you can follow if you want to. There's a few other things in here that are interesting. I won't dive deep into them, but how to set up video showings, home snaps stories for people that are looking for a way to create a video that they can brand. Unlike the videos in the MLS system, you can brand videos on home snap, and they're easily shareable to social media, that kind of stuff. So those are a couple of options for you. And then I'm going to go ahead and share a quick presentation and then more or less just open this up for questions for everybody on the panel, including myself. So this is the presentation that I've been giving, and where the association has been wholly focused on the aspects of your business that have to do with advocacy and safety and education. Maris has been really wrapped up on the side of your business that has to do with making sure you have the tools to continue to operate within this marketplace. So one of the very first things we did almost day one was we simply took one of our virtual tour links and renamed it Video Open House. This gave us a really quick way that was already in all our rep feeds, already on customer portals, things like that. Gave us a really quick way to share a video as opposed to just the static pictures of the traditional virtual tours. So that is available to you. Those do have to be unbranded, but it's there for your use under the virtual tour, what used to be virtual tour link 3. The next major thing we did was disable the open houses. So I'm sure you guys are getting used to that now. Yesterday, we launched a brand new service. Full disclosure, they rushed to put this out, and it is a little buggy, but we think we're getting all the bugs worked out today. I know Michelle Walker's on this call and actually was helping us test some of this. But Remind has what they call Remind Live now. So it's the ability to quickly go in, create a live stream, date, time, and then share that out. And what it looks like on the app is you can see there's the Watch Remind Live. There's your Remind Live, so the things you have scheduled. They're pretty simple to schedule. You just do a date and a time. It's limited to a half hour. But once you put that in, clients can find those on Remind. So any clients that you've invited into Remind, and by the way, I think last month there were 27,000 new invites into Remind. So it does have a ton of consumers that are on there looking almost daily. But they can schedule to visit one of those virtual Remind Live streams, and you will get notified if you have a buyer client enrolled. You as the buyer's agent get notified that your client's going to join that live stream, and you can also join it and watch it with them. And then the simulcasting looks a little bit like this on the right. It's pretty easy. You just click a button on your app that says Start Remind Live. You can flip the camera around so that you can see your face, and you can turn your flashlight on or off on the screen pretty quickly. So it's a really nice, simple, easy way to deliver a broadcast. Right now it's broadcast only. So in the initial launch of this product, they made it a broadcast only. So you won't really know, you might know how many people are on there, but you won't really be able to communicate with them back and forth. This is a broadcast of your open house. I think in the future versions, they're going to introduce things like private showings so that you can schedule a one-on-one with your own client, and the ability to gain a list of contacts for the buyer's agents whose buyers attended those. So we'll start to see some enhancements to that probably over the next couple of weeks because they've been working pretty diligently to get this out. Clear cooperation policy. This is still moving forward as planned. You will note that we did change one of our approaches, which was that we launched coming soon early. We were going to launch it with the rest of the plan on April 28th. We decided that based on the current market though, we would go ahead and pull the coming soon status out of that planned implementation and launch coming soon as possible. So we launched this, I think roughly a week and a half ago now, maybe 2 weeks. A couple of changes to this status due to COVID. Originally, you were only going to be allowed 21 days in this status, and then it would have to move to active. We've extended that out to 60 days. The primary reason is that these homes don't accumulate days on market in this status, and we wanted a place where you could assure sellers that they can still go onto the market during this very odd marketing time and not accumulate those days on market for a good period of time. When we do revert back to 21 days, we will just simply stair step it down. So if we made that announcement today, then any listing coming soon today would get 60, tomorrow 59, the next day 58, all the way down to 21. And then it would be 21 days going forward. We learned a lesson last time when we had coming soon and our rule was no showings allowed. We learned that all of you, well, not all of you, but a lot of you showed those homes anyway. You just kind of did it on the down low. So instead of making this no showings allowed, we made it optional. And the optional is this: you either show it to everybody or you show it to nobody, but you can show the homes. You just have to disclose that you're showing them. The distributions of these listings, another change we made due to the COVID was that we decided that we would allow them to be leveraged for brokerage websites and brokerage back office feeds. Maris is still not sending these to any of the third-party portals, so they don't go to Zillow or Trulia or Realtor.com or any other third-party portal. We don't have a prohibition on you advertising them there. We just will not participate in that advertising. So if you have direct relationships with any of those companies, either through your brokerage or through another vendor that you utilize, you can advertise those listings as you see fit. Just Maris has limited advertising on the coming soon. And then the last thing, in order to get this status out the door as fast as possible, we were going to have a limited number of required fields. But to move up the time frame, we decided to copy the code that we had for active listings and the required fields and actives and just utilize that same code base for the coming soon listings. So the required fields are going to be exactly the same as an active listing. We likely won't revert that back because by the time we got there, we sort of anticipate that everybody will already be used to filling in the number of required fields that are there. So any change would cause future confusion. So that's the coming soon that we launched early. I think the current plan is on April 21st. We will put out the new form that we've developed. The MLS exemption form will go away. Starting April 28th, we'll no longer accept them. So they'll still be available until then, and you can be MLS exempt until then. But on April 28th, anything that you've had marketing on must go into the MLS, and the marketing options form is the only form that will be available to you. The form is very simple. It just says the three options: active, coming soon, or withheld. I'll talk about withheld in a second, but really it's a form designed to give the broker peace of mind that any of the agents that are out there, agents or brokers that are under them are out there, are properly communicating with the home seller what their options are for the market and what the limitations are to those statuses. So we'll put that out on the 21st so that you guys can see it ahead of time and start utilizing it whenever you feel the need to. Just a quick note on this form: if you take a listing in either withheld or coming soon, and then that listing is going to be moving, advancing in status towards active, you do not have to go back and get the form filled out again for another box to be checked. This is just an initial listing form on how it's coming into the market. That withheld status will be available on April 28th. Withheld is essentially, I've heard it referenced a lot of different ways as brokerage exclusive, pocket listing, you name it. It still exists in our world. We cannot eliminate them. If you Google the Clear Cooperation Policy NAR, you'll actually see down in their FAQs, are brokerage exclusives still allowed? And the answer is a very clear yes. This is the way we're going to handle them. We want to have visibility into those listings. So we're going to have 3 required fields for those listings: cities, beds, and baths. That doesn't allow us to identify the home. We don't have an address. We don't have a school district. Unless you provide them, you can provide more information. But you have to provide that information so that the brokerages and the MLS have some visibility into that marketplace and know how many homes are out there in that status. This status really should be utilized when the need for privacy overwrites the need for publicity in the home. So it's a status that's there if you're getting a lot of work done to the house, if you have a judge that's in a high profile case, you name it. There are a lot of reasons to utilize this status. So it is there, it is available for you. And that's really where I will drop off, and I'll go to Q&A if you want to go there, Mark. And Mark's on mute.
Apologize. I don't see any new questions. If anybody has any, for everyone's information, it just came over that St. Louis County is extending their stay-at-home order indefinitely. Dr. Page, the county executive over there, says they'll look at it in mid-May. They'll look at it again, but for now it's extended indefinitely. Whether anyone will follow that lead. We have not had a whole lot of, should we say, regional cooperation on being everybody on the same page, which has made everybody's job more difficult. But that's the latest from St. Louis County. I don't see any new questions. Sandy, you want to wrap up then?
Yeah, Mark, I was just curious how many brokers we actually have on the line.
Looks like we got about 9.
Okay, and then this is going to be recorded and posted where?
On our website.
Okay, so you guys can pass it around for people that weren't able to be on the call. I'd like to thank all of you gentlemen for being with us today and giving us, updates. They were extremely helpful. I know I took a lot of notes. It's nice to be in the know, so thank you, and thank you for taking time out of your day. And I guess we'll wrap it up if nobody else has any more questions. Thank you guys for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Everybody.
Good seeing you all.
All right, bye. See you next week.
All right.